Okay, so I've talked quite a bit in the more recent past about shamanism and about animism. I haven't always put them together. They are quite linked in many ways, and they are linked because of the what I call the mirroring effect. This means that the whole of the universe is mirroring itself, working out reflectively what is happening everywhere. I'll give an example of this. The sun is probably the best example. And if you think of the sun and the moon, then at night we can only see the moon because the sun is reflecting the light, his light, on the moon. So this is the sort of thing I mean, that we reflect each other, we influence each other, we sometimes go to town with this, with influence. We want to impress each other, or we want to put across a message to each other. Now, when we're talking about the shamanic element, we are talking about what I call shamanic interaction, which means the mirroring effect comes into play and it acts as a way of our putting something across to people, so that we think about something, we put something across to people, they accept that and they reflect on that and reflect back to us. I don't know if you can understand what I'm trying to say with this, but it's all about mirroring. It's all about copying. It's all about simulating. This is why role play is so essential as a therapeutic measure and as an enjoyable thing to do, because we get to have the experience of the mirroring effect as much as we can when we're doing something like that. So we're talking about interaction, we're talking about communicating with each other. And then, I mean, this is a whole big area really, which we learn about on the courses, but what we learn is to reflect and interact in a way where we are being realistic, where we are seeing things as they are and reflecting that back to other people. So basically we're talking about, let's go back to the sun and the moon again. Basically we're talking about reflecting something upon something so that it reflects back to us. So I am saying something to you, and then you think about it and can reflect back to me or feed back to me. Feedback is another good word we can use. And moving on to how animism fits into this, with the animistic side, we are, well, if we try hard enough, we refine, I wanted to say, we refined those interactive abilities. So we refine our senses. We start to listen to our gut feelings more and more. All of us get gut feelings about things. We don't all think we do, but we do. Now those gut feelings are based on what experience we've had thus far in our lives. They are based on influence. Gut feelings come in all sorts of ways, but if we start to get real, if we start to aim to see things as they are, if we start to be appropriate to the moment, that's a very important thing. Being present, or mindful, as some would say. This is what mindfulness is usually about. If we start to do all these things, then our gut feelings start to become far more natural. It's like an organic process, which brings us to primary organic thinking, which I also talk about in the courses, because it's all something that we need to learn if we want to communicate and live a life that's based on all these things and feeling better about yourself generally. So the animistic approach all relies on refining the way you perceive things, I suppose, the way you record things, the way you sense things. So now senses go into two different areas. If our senses are refined, then when, let's give an example, meeting somebody for the first time, we get a sense of what that person is about. Now, if that person is a little bit up to no good, then we are likely to get a gut feeling that maybe contains doubt. Perhaps we feel a little bit doubtful about this person. If we do, then we will get an experience that kicks in and tells us that. Now, sometimes we will ignore that. Other times we will take it on board. You always need to take it on board. If you have a feeling about something, you always take it on board. Now, whether that feeling is an objective feeling, shall we say, or whether it's subjective, in which case it could be based on, let's say, an experience you've had that was quite traumatic in the past and you're frightened of having that experience again. So if you meet someone and you don't doubt them, then you might sort of get feelings of doubt about just about everyone if you've had a traumatic experience in the past that's contributed to you being a very doubtful, fearful, worried, anxious person today. So when you get a gut feeling in that respect, it might not always be that accurate. You need to record it. You need to acknowledge it. So this is what I mean about refining our gut feelings so that they're more objective. Take an example of a wild deer. Now, this animal's senses are very keen and they're very objective. The approach is very animalistic. The senses are working fine. They're ready to act anytime the animal needs it. And this is the sort of thing we would have done a long time ago. We would have used our senses to their fullest. We've stopped doing that today in modern times, but we can rekindle that ability in ourselves to use our senses just as we need to. So the key to this is really to observe people, observe yourself, observe the way you interact with things, react to things, the way you are influenced by things, because influence counts a lot. If you're deeply influenced by something that's happened to you in the past, that might well play back quite a lot for you in all your relationships. So refining is a good thing. You can do this by role play. You can do it by practicing what you might feel about certain things, and you can only do this in practice. So if you don't come to my workshops and don't get the opportunity to work out what you can do to refine these things, then you need to observe more of people. Now, it's worth saying, where animism is concerned, that people have become overly sensitive today. They are overly sensitive to everything. They are fragile. We are no longer hardy people. Romany people used to be very hardy in their makeup. And for that reason, they had everything working really well in their senses. But we are so fragile and overly sensitive today that we think that I walk in the room and I feel everything. Well, that's nonsense. You're walking in the room and feeling what your past experience has been and how you're reacting to that. So you're actually walking into a room with a past experience. You're walking into the room in the past. You're not walking into the room now as you are, being appropriate to the moment of walking into the room. So if you can follow my drift, and if you can't, you need to ask me questions about this. Write things down in the comments and ask me different ideas about this. If you can't understand it, don't just fall silent and go into a corner, or email me and ask questions. It's a good thing to do, because this is a lot to take on board. And when I'm doing a video like this, it is very difficult to get everything all in one little packet in 20 minutes or however long the video takes. So, but if it gives you food for thought, that's good. So we're talking about refining our animistic senses, refining our gut feelings. If you feel you are sensitive, it may not be that you are picking up accurately what people are communicating to you, what they are influencing you with. You might not be that accurate. You've got to see yourself and everything around you as it is, get real, be appropriate to the moment, be present. Then you'll start to get a much clearer picture of what everything is all about, what's happening, what's taking place around you every single day. So the refining process is necessary. But when you do get a gut feeling and it's subjective, then it's a really helpful thing, because it will keep you safe, it will keep you healthy, it will give you all sorts of reasons to go about and trust yourself. You need to learn how to trust yourself. Trust yourself that you can do this. That's the thing to do. So this mix of the mirroring effect and the animistic mirroring effect, it's all mirroring. The shamanic effect, the animistic effect, they go together. If, in a nutshell, if you are objective about your gut feelings, if you feel something about a situation, about a person, and it's a little thought that is a little bit niggly, record that, and then that will help you with the mirroring process. You will start to see what somebody else is trying to put across to you. Now, the shamanic element, when we practice shamanism, shamanic interaction properly, is deliberate. We do the mirroring effect deliberately, but it happens unconsciously. An example, watching a movie where you are identifying with the character in the movie and they start to move you. You feel tearful, you feel, oh my God, I relate to that, what that character is going through. That's a shamanic effect. That's a mirroring effect, because what they are doing is mirroring, the actor is mirroring how you feel. In turn, you are mirroring because you're receiving that message, and then you are, in your way, acting that out as well with them if you feel moved. So that is a deliberate shamanic idea. A shaman of old would go through a ritual and act out something on your behalf, which is what I've done sometimes. You act out what the person is feeling, what they're experiencing, and that is something that is hard for some of us today to accept, because how dare you act out how I'm feeling. We forget that it's all about feeling. It's not just about banging a drum and waving things in the air and rattles and whatever. They are the things that help the connection to take place. They're not the be-all and end-all, except you see some people in neo-shamanism and core shamanism doing that, because then they think they're conducting healing. They're not. Unless you get down to the nitty-gritty of the way someone feels, their behaviour, their psychological makeup, what they're actually doing every day, when they're interacting with people and they're going about their daily business, then you're not really practicing shamanism or animism. You're not really going into what these things mean. It could seem very complex today. And that's only because we've moved so far away from the simplicity of what shamanism and animism are about that we've got to relearn it. We've got to relearn the simple. And if you're relearning the simple things from a perspective of complexity, then you've got a bit of a challenge, to say the least. And that's why my courses are necessary, because it helps to move us from the complex way of thinking to the simple way of thinking. So that's what we've got to think about. So shamanism and animism are related through the mirroring effect. Next time you look at the moon and she's very bright in the sky, think of that mirroring effect. Think of what Cam, the sun spirit, is creating when he's shining his light on her, and think of what she's experiencing when the light is upon her and what she mirrors back to him. They're mirroring to each other. So if she's got a feeling that he's okay, then she'll think, oh yeah, he's not so bad. He's a bit of all right, is Cam. The same the other way around. So animism is something we are obliged to learn before we ever get to shamanic interaction. I say this to my students all the time. The senses must come first, because then if we refine them, we get to understand what shamanic interaction can be about. Have a few thoughts about this. Ask me some questions about this. Come on my courses. You won't regret it. They're here now at this moment, and there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. There's nothing, because we need to get real, and very few courses like to get real. So come along if you can, and ask me questions if you need to, and keep watching this space. Please continue watching my videos, because they may help you quite a bit, and subscribe please, and like, and all those sorts of things. I'll talk to you again soon, and hopefully maybe meet you sometime if you want to come along. So take care then, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again very soon.